The Jets are 5-8 right now. Every other team in the AFC besides the Patriots is at least 5-8. I think it's safe to say the Jets need a miracle to make the playoffs. Is that miracle wearing number 2? Has he been there all along? And have they? I just think so. I'll start here. I think what you saw this week with Zach, he said going into it, they said he had a conversation with one of his teammates, and he was like, "What are they going to do? Bench me again?" And he's right. And it shows that he has had a lot of pressure on him this season. He's had a lot of pressure on him in his career being a number 2 pick. It's clear he does not thrive under pressure. It's been clear. Everyone's been saying he's lacking confidence on the field. When you're lacking confidence in anything and it's obvious to people that you're lacking confidence, that in itself is a confidence destroyer. So now Zach starts out the season and they're like, listen, this isn't going how we planned. We got to throw you back out there. And they basically, the attitude is like, just don't lose this games. And for a minute, it looked like it could work. And then it just went so poorly so quickly. And he started playing so bad that they thought Tim Boyle, who I don't even know how he's in the NFL, truthfully, they put Tim Boyle in a quarterback. What does Tim Boyle do? He throws a pick 6 on the last play before halftime. And on a Hail Mary. That was hilarious.
Oh,
so then they say, well, we don't got Boyle. We can't put Zach out there. We got to go with Trevor Siemian. You think Trevor Siemian has started a season in his career? Maybe he's got to be a little bit better, right? Nah, he wasn't all that good either. So you say, all right, we're just going to go with the guy who's most naturally talented in the quarterback room and can walk, Zach Wilson. Although Rodgers, we don't know. But
we'll see what happens.
You go with Zach. He comes in, and he's just like, listen, it can't be worse than it already was, right? So I'm just going to do me. And it just feels like he was playing with some alleviated pressure this past week. So what are your reactions to a Zach Wilson masterclass?
I'll just start off real quick and say that there's a outside chance that Zach gets traded this offseason, and it was New York all along. It was just he wasn't built to be in New York.
Lights are too bright.
Because
let Atlanta get him. Let Zach Wilson and Bijan team up, bro.
There's like legitimately an outside chance that I could see him heading elsewhere and being I don't think we're ever going to see Zach Wilson be a great quarterback, even though the talent is obviously there. But there's an outside chance he could somehow become a good quarterback. Like, I'm not going to bet on that, but you saw it here. It was the most decisive and overall just accurate that he's looked throughout his entire career. Even though the protection was horrible. He got sacked 5 times, consistently under pressure, but everything looked good. I saw a video from Kurt Benkert, who's a former quarterback in the NFL practice squad or whatever. And he simply just proved that he's capable of being a good quarterback. His mechanics look good. His footwork looked good. It was the best I've seen Zach Wilson look, and it was that simple. Hi, Dean.
Speaking of Zach Wilson, we got a caller.
Zach Wilson,
the biggest Zach Wilson fan on the planet. Dean, what are your thoughts after the Zach Wilson masterclass?
I saw a revitalized Zach Wilson. He went into that week contemplating life, contemplating his NFL career, because that was basically over, after getting benched a second season in a row. All the pressure was off. My man, went home and said, listen, I got nothing to lose. If I throw 3 picks, I don't care. In the rain, C.J. Stroud threw less than 100 yards in the rain, and Zach Wilson's out here balling out for over 300, 2 touchdowns, looked poised, looked calm in the pocket, didn't make many mistakes. He had 1 fumble, but, he was trying to make a play. Give him credit for that. It was a tough Texans defense. It was not like a walk in the park. It was not a bad defense that they played against. I liked what I saw out of Zach Wilson. Listen, are the Jets a good football team after this win? Still no.
Yeah.
But I have a little bit more confidence that Zach Wilson has the talent to do something. So yeah, I mean, the Jets season, it's a wash. They're not going to win 5 straight games. They're just not. It's not going to happen. going to the offseason. And I don't think he's a Jet next season either. I think he gets traded somewhere. I think he needs to, change of scenery. I think he divides the fan base a little bit too much. I think everybody's on opposite sides of the spectrum on Zach Wilson, and I think within the front office it's a problem for them. So they're going to decide to part ways with him, and they're going to find a new quarterback. But I think he's going to be good in the NFL after this. I don't know, after he gets out of New York.
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's pretty much what I was going
Yeah,
for.
man.
before.
Yeah. Good stuff, Dean.
Love you guys.
Love
Well,
you, Dean.
Everybody.
Thanks for calling on, man. So yeah, what Dean said. Also, like, obviously Zach Wilson needs to get a ton of credit, like you guys said and Dean said. That just shows that he's a true professional. Like you guys both alluded to, the possibility of him being on a new team come next season. I mean, this is what teams want to see. When you're back, I mean, you want to talk about your back being against the wall. He was pinned up against that wall. Honestly, might have even been bent over. Might have been bent over.
He's been bent over.
Yeah. And he just came in and played some football. And I'm pretty sure he said something about that in his post-game presser. Like, there's been a lot of times in my career where I haven't been able to just go out there and play football. But today we went out there and played football pretty much. And, I mean, that was evident. He played with confidence. He had command of the offense, all that fun stuff. But the Jets' defense was phenomenal in this game. They were on one, generated a ton of pressure. I mean, they dominated time of possession, 37-22. They ran 66 offensive plays compared to 52. They only allowed 135 total offensive yards in the game while gaining 340 themselves, outgained them by over 200. I mean, you're not going to lose many football games like that. So overall, complete team win, defensively and offensively. And, if I'm Zach Wilson, I'm confident. This is all. That's all you really needed to see. Just have one good game, bro. And, like you said in the beginning, Tom, I mean, I've been saying this all year since the Rodgers injury. This Jets front office is terrible. I'd give them credit for getting Rodgers, give them credit for building a great defense, but the way they've went about this season, it's mind-baffling. It baffles my mind. You have Aaron Rodgers. You have Super Bowl expectations. Those are stripped from you immediately. You have the same roster as last year, pretty much. A great defense, some cool offensive skill position players, no quarterback. You'll make any move to get a quarterback. You say Zach Wilson's the guy, even though last year you saw how that went. Didn't go good. Say Zach Wilson's the guy. Zach Wilson's the guy. It doesn't go well. Zach has some flashes, though. Like we said a million times on this podcast in the beginning of this season, Zach Wilson this season compared to last season, it was like watching two different guys. Not saying Zach Wilson was good, but he was that bad last season. Then he had some absolute real stinkers, and it got ugly there. And they still don't make a move for another quarterback. And they say, you know what? We're going to go with Tim Boyle. We're going to go with Trevor Siemian. Fuck Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, you're demoted not just to the backup. You're the third string. You're not even going to get a chance. Even if this Tim Boyle guy sucks. Fuck you, Zach Wilson. We're going to go with Trevor Siemian instead.
Thanks.
It's like, all right. Like, they punted the season. Like, cool. They gave Zach Wilson one more shot. That's probably the last snap he takes as a New York Jet. They're clearly punting the season. They're clearly going to just go with Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian the rest of the year. They didn't make a move at the deadline. And then they have the balls to put this kid back in. They have the balls to do that. And it just, I mean, like I said, shout out to Zach for like being a professional and coming ready, staying ready so you don't have to get ready, all that fun stuff. But, I mean, you were setting the kid up for failure.
Yep.
He wasn't supposed to play good in this game.
No.
He like that's why it's so special, because he was set up to completely fail and he didn't. But he was set up to fail because of the front office.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I have a real problem with the way the front office has handled this entire, like I've said a million times all season, when you have a defense that's special and you see a chance to have a Super Bowl window like they saw before this year, like they saw even after the Rodgers injury, like, hey, we just need some solid quarterback play. Our defense could carry us. When you have that window, you got to capitalize. And I'm not a fan personally of just punting a season away. Not like this.
I agree.
Agreed.
real quick, it also helps when 2/3 of your attempts, receptions, and all that stuff goes to guys named Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. I mean, Zach had 36 attempts. 23 targets were to Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. 17 of the 27 completions ended up going to Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. 194 of the 301 yards also went to those two. And then one of the 2 touchdowns was to Breece Hall. So when you get those guys involved, good things are going to happen. They're your 2 most dynamic playmakers. It helps when you do everything you can to get them the football. So
Right.
hopefully they learn from that eventually, but not like this season matters much anymore to the Jets. I don't even think Rodgers ends up coming back. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. No.
But all in all, I mean, you said before that the Jets got Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's how it worked. Aaron Rodgers got the Jets is what fucking happened. Pretty much took full ownership of this team to this point. So it's the Aaron Rodgers show. Ends up getting his besties over there, and Nathaniel Hackett, Allen Lazard, and Randall Cobb. You smell desperation, and this was a desperate move. And then Aaron Rodgers got whatever the fuck he felt like getting because the Jets had no choice at this point. Because who else were we going to get to play quarterback? We weren't going to start Zach again. So they ended up getting Rodgers, and Rodgers did whatever the fuck he felt like doing. You didn't set Zach up for any success. This was the Aaron Rodgers show. Nathaniel Hackett is not a good offensive coordinator. Aaron Rodgers only makes it work because it's the Rodgers/Hackett offense when he's in there. So you didn't set him up for success at all. Zach had a rough go of it, and that's not entirely on him. It was an offense designed for Aaron Rodgers that didn't know how to adjust off Aaron Rodgers. Poor Zach Wilson, man. Hope he gets another shot somewhere else.
Yeah, I was legitimately arguing with my brother about like the Jets fan base and front office and treatment of Zach Wilson, and he said something about when they played the Chiefs, and I was like, bro, that's the perfect example. I said when he played the Chiefs, all these people came out and said Zach Wilson played a great game, and I was like, he did not play a great game, and we argued for like 10 minutes on like the fact that he didn't play a great game, and it's just, I'm like, my point is, you guys have set the bar so low.
Yep.
And then,
this was a great game.
This was a great game. This was a great game.
Quarterback
This is what
game.
you want to see from Zach. But yeah, he's probably not.
No, I
a Jet
agree with
next
you,
season.
though. I was saying the same thing when they lost to the Chiefs. It was like, I remember saying it to Dean. I'm like, all right, like, yes, so like you could be excited and like happy that you played the Chiefs so close. Zach Wilson had a good game, and you were in position to almost win. But Aaron Rodgers is still out. Zach Wilson still had 3 horrible games prior to that, and you're still on the outside looking in of the playoff picture. And that's what, week 5, week 6 at that time? It's the same thing. Zach Wilson showed a flash. They're going to hype him up again.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to, like, I hope he doesn't, but it's just the cycle. Like, he's going to come out and be dog shit, and then they're going to turn on him again and call for him to be benched.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just how many times do we have to go through this process, man?
And that's what I said. It's like you just like you set the bar so low for him because you had these really high expectations, and he could never deliver on those because he's just not that good of a quarterback. And so now you've set it so low that anytime he does anything relatively good, you're amazed. Yeah. And so
that's that's kind of what Dean was alluding to too, where it's like he's literally the reason for a type of divide in the fan base.
Yeah.
Because there's guys who will hype him up every fucking great throw. They'll say if Mahomes did that, it'd be all over ESPN.
Yeah.
And then there's guys who will shit on him everything he does, even if he plays well. So it's like there's 2 sides of the spectrum, but I feel like the front office is causing that because you're putting him in these situations.
I also want to say that they also fucked themselves in terms of the return they're going to get for Zach this offseason too. Everybody knows he has to be traded now. Like, has to. And you're going to trade him, and what are you going to get back for a guy that was the 2nd overall pick now? A 6th, if you're lucky? Probably a 6-7 swap is what you're going to end up getting. Maybe a 5th round pick at max. But you're not getting shit for Zach in return now. Because everyone knows you need to trade him. And even if a team buys into the flashes, it's going to be, okay, you have no leverage as the Jets. Yeah. Because now everybody knows he needs to be off this team. Everybody knows he needs to be off this team. So the max you're getting is a 5th-round pick. Like, that's it. That's it. You fucked yourself on the potential return. Meanwhile, a guy like Justin Fields, who's had flashes, obviously way more than Zach Wilson, is
Right.
probably going to end up getting traded for a 2nd-round pick or more, potentially, from a desperate team in this offseason. So, interesting to see where this goes with Zach.
Yeah, and the Jets just rode out the Zach Wilson wave for way too long, like you said. And the thing is, like, they could have had an out. Like, it's not like the quarterbacks taken after him are all that great right now, like Fields, Mac Jones, and whoever else, even and Trey Lance. Those guys weren't that great either. So you could have just said, hey, it was a shitty quarterback class, and we don't think we did that bad. At the time, it was a good pick, and this. And so they rode out the wave too long. They expected too much from him. He couldn't deliver, and then they threw him in when they had no other options, and just continued, like Chris said, to set him up for failure. And they're surprised when he can't deliver. It's just, it's clearly a relationship that's not working
You know
anymore.
what's crazy? You said it ended up being a shitty QB class. I remember when we looked at that class, how hyped up it was and how good we thought it was going to be, given that it was Trevor Lawrence, who ended up being a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson going 2nd, Trey Lance going 3rd, and then Justin Fields going 10th and Mac Jones going 15th. I think that was the exact spots, whatever the fuck. But those were guys that we looked at as like, yo, these are all potential franchise quarterbacks. All 5 of them.
Yep.
And then that really ended up backfiring. And this
Big
is a
time.
similar draft in this regard, too. This coming year, we're going to have a shit ton of quarterbacks that are potential franchise guys. So, I don't know, man.
Yeah, this draft class
just
is
goes
fun.
to show how hard it is to get your franchise guy, because only 50% of the quarterbacks taken in the first round end up being good, which is crazy.